finally got internet back up here in New York now. All this other stuff set up, so we're good. I'm just gonna go over some of the stuff quick just in the beginning, and then we'll go over some of this other stuff. So, long story short, I'm not really. This is like to me, this is the range we're in. This is where we already started, so I think this is a fairly strong week, even though we've already hit near the top of this range. We do see this 155.50, which has always been a lot of trouble. Also coincides just about with where we do have this week time frame here as well. To me, this is the range that I want to play if I'm looking to play anything. So I'm really not concerned about the price in this range whatsoever. We could come down if we do come back under here. I believe that I think the 500s there also as well. No, the 375. 500s here. But so we'll look at it like this in a second. So, long story short, I'm not playing with anything right now. If we do push up, then sure thing. If we can just look here, like this is the range that I was looking for. When we start this high in the range, it's possible we push up, but here we didn't push up enough for me to really want to get in a short for this. And like, yeah, you can kind of get in when it comes down here, but it's already started so high, and I believe it pushed up before it pushed down, if I remember correctly. So another way to look at this is, okay, well, if we come under here, maybe we can then push down. My kind of concern here is we do still have the day 200 right here. Um, and it does look kind of bad, but I could see this bouncing and then just coming back up. So just from here, we can kind of see there's a lot of free space. Anyway, on the more, I don't need to say local, but if we look at from these last two movements down and up, right here, there's a lot of free space. There's a lot of volatility, and it should be able to drop pretty quickly here. So, what I'm waiting for, long story short, Apple, just as an extension, kind of the market too, um, is for it. Yeah, AMD. Okay, so is for us to either enter into this range up here or to start somewhere in here, and then we'll play just as usual. We'll play this range, right? The same thing as we did before. Sad thing is, there's no way to. I didn't play this because there's no real way to play this kind of specifically. I took profits way before this ended here. So I because what I would have done here is or what I was hoping to do is that we'd start here, push up, and then push down. But but when you start down here, you just take another position. Well, I'm not saying that as other people. That's just what I do, the way I look at it. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for this anyway. I'm looking for us to start in this range, but more so into the top of this range, and then the same thing applies really to here. I think these are much more pivotal spots, I suppose, in a sense, than where it is here. I'm not a big fan of a lot of this stuff, but kind of getting to the meat and potatoes or whatever you call of it. Um, I still think that the dollar easily could come back down to 98 to 100, which is what I think. Is it here? Where's 98? Is it here? I think it was like here when I was looking at it. Let me see. Think like this looks decent. Anywhere in these two areas, I mean, we have the averages here also as well. This just looks decent for what it is. So anywhere between 98 pretty much and 100 looks pretty good for the dollar to drop. Um, a couple concerns about that when we look at this is it might not have to do with this specifically, but one kind of concern I have, or I guess with the charts, one concern I have is if we do really just drop down there, especially now that with yesterday hitting a little resistance, which kind of seemed weird, even though we've pushed up so much, and it makes sense for people to be taking profits at these areas. It's two kind of questions. When we get to this area, um, where is the market going to be? Because this looks like it could be fairly strong for us to push back up all over again if it does drop. And that's a pretty heavy drop. So if it doesn't fall under, like we have this also as well underneath it. Um, I don't know. We'll see. I'll put it in this sense also, even on the month time frame. Let's say I don't see it falling through here. It's really hard to see. This is something I'll talk about in a second. But even if we fall through here, which still looks really good for a bounce, it's hard to see us not just bouncing here and bouncing hard, essentially, is the point I'm trying to get at. And so, really, if we're kind of just like rotating, or it's like not like cyclical, like as a year, but just kind of in terms of like trend or movement, um, is the market going to go up enough by the time the dollar looks really good to go back up? And what might that mean in a sense? So one thing I'm kind of concerned about is possibly just a weak dollar overall, and this kind of comes with inflation. It doesn't really have anything to do with the charts per se. But my kind of concern is that the dollar's really weak, and because the dollar's weak, just standard, we're gonna have. I mean, these aren't the best, but we got gold, silver doing their thing. But we could look at something like copper per se also as well. So it's not just gold and silver, and this definitely has something to get through on the week time frame. Let's see what happens on the month. It looks like a decent month base here though at 3 point. What is this? 3.623. But point being is these things just go up. So if the dollar's going to get wrecked, commodity prices are going to go up. And I don't see how that really helps. And also with just like a weaker dollar in general, um, like if the dollar was, let's say if the dollar's like right here. Let's say this is like the average is like right here. Let's say like the dollar's under, I don't know. Let's say the average is right here. Uh, that's where the dollar is. But like if the dollar's up here, and then for some reason if copper's also really expensive, like that's bad for the whole world. But it's still, in my opinion, relatively better for the U.S. than anywhere else, or anyone holding dollars, um, because this is going to be way more expensive for anything else. I don't know if this is like an improper way of kind of looking at it, but my issue is kind of with a possible weakness in the dollar itself, also adding to just increased prices for the dollar, and also not just for then, but also moving forward into the future. I know there's a lot of articles of people saying like, oh, a shift away from the dollar and things like that. It's like, who knows, maybe. But it's just a little concerning. It's just something in the back of my mind. It's not really super huge. To kind of that effect, one thing that's super interesting that we're always following here is, by we, I mean myself and I, have been streaming enough. But so the Japanese yen, they're still holding the yields down, which is pretty insane. Um, and at the same time, we are now back under the initial point that I called out for an entry. We are now, I mean, you can kind of pretty clearly see some of these days too, right? We almost bounce, we come into it 1, 2, 3 days. And people, the dollar is just attacked so hard. It kind of is what it is from so many different fronts. Um, but, this was like we were talking about, this was, I believe this was the entry point. Where was it? Yeah, this is the entry point. I remember for the day, 12-hour time frame. Man, this is from forever ago. But I mean, this is pretty wild of a drop. I mean, this looks like it could drop quite a bit more. And to kind of what I was saying before, this is pretty interesting because unless something's really turned around, I don't think the yen is. I can kind of see it now from some of these other ones. I wonder if I took out the dollar, if this would be as strong. I'll do it some other time. But I wonder if I took out the dollar, if this would be as strong. I wonder what this looks like if I can I do this? It's been a while. Let's get rid of this. I think I can do it like this. Yeah, so even without the dollar, it looks a little bit stronger without the dollar, I feel like right there. Yeah, the candle looks a little it's almost the same, but it looks a little bit stronger, but it's almost the exact same. Maybe there's something going on in Japan that I'm not aware of. It's kind of hard to imagine that their currency is strong now as opposed to other people's currency. I mean, if anything, they put themselves in a worse spot than they did before, and they still own 50% of their bonds, which I think they only issued 10-year bonds, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so that's kind of a little bit of a concern with a lot of this stuff is just the dollar's super weak. And can this like kind of stick into other places? So let's just kind of go through one other thing, I guess, and then we'll kind of just look at what's going on. What I wanted to see for the Nasdaq, we've kind of already done, which does make me a little sketched. Though I don't think this looks the worst. I think this looks pretty decent for what it is. So we can just kind of see from here what I was looking at. We can see that we start right here, right? We get our day that starts above. I was saying this. I think I was talking to my uncle about this. I was saying it looked like go up. He's like, no, it just pushed up. And it's like, well, that's how charts work, right? So, well, not that's not how people work, right? People and bots. Um, but yeah, so I mean, this is kind of it looks pretty decent from where it is. I could see this coming down, but if I had to guess whether this was going to go up or not, if I had to bet right now whether I thought this was going to go up, I'd say this is more likely to push up. We'd never actually hit this target up here, so that's kind of one thing that this has that is going for it. But it's close enough, in my opinion. It's more than close enough. Um, so that's kind of that right there. And then let's look over at Bitcoin. Bitcoin looked pretty decent, as I've been saying for a while. I still think it's most important for us to get above this 22.4 spot, though I really wanted to see it around. I guess I got rid of whatever that trend line was. I think there was a trend line somewhere like from here to here or something like that. Was this where it was? November. I don't remember. I feel like it was more aggressive than this. Anyway, but the point is that we wanted to see it above. I think it was like mid-October, or I think mid-October is where we wanted to see this up here, and then we wanted to see Bitcoin get up to 30K by this time. FTX happened, so this is kind of hard to say. Anybody that was waiting, this has nothing to do with it in my opinion, but anyone that was waiting, for that 22.4, kind of lucked out here. This is just really unfortunate, though, of people playing with other people's money. It's just is what it is. There's not much that can really be done about it. So I guess to get to Bitcoin itself, day 500, we'll move this down here. It's still what? 14.4 to 14.6 pretty much still looks like the range. I think that looks pretty decent also as well. We're going to have to see what happens, though, because this 19K, this line here is just as big. This trend line here, in my opinion, is just as big and important as these whole averages right now. So, kind of to that perspective, if we look at, let's just go, where's vertical line? So, if we just do vertical line, we are right now. So, we're looking right here. So, we have a little bit of an open space between them. I think maybe the best place to try to break through would be on the 25th. We'll see what happens if anything on Friday. Wait, what? Oh, my bad. Next Friday. But this is going to be pretty tough. Like I usually say for these, you get in here, they're relatively close. So anyone that didn't want to necessarily sell here, just to see where the week 200 is, that's where that is. Could be adjusted, small amount, doesn't matter. Um, they might run into sellers here and then push it back under, right? So if we come above here, it's great. We need to hold above here. Um, and when the week ended, we haven't pushed back up yet. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But when we did come under on the daytime frame anyway, we did come back and find resistance. So I think 18, 19K are two important spots. 14.3, 14.6 are both, or 14.4, 14.6 are both important spots. But it would be interesting to kind of see in these areas what happens. I think there's a very high chance that whenever it does come down, that we just come under this, find resistance, and then push under. A concern that I do have is that this is our range. On the week, it looks okay, but from the looking on the day time frame, we've fallen under, we've come back up. So we've played the top more than we played the bottom. We have this open space in the bottom of this range. So this is going to be pretty attractive, I believe, for sellers, or if we do come back up and get rejected. And not like if I say you're rejected, you could say like, oh, it's obvious. Well, if you're saying you get rejected, we're going to push down. But this could be a rejection, and then we come down here and we push up. If we come back up, this is still a rejection. Um, you know, just because I'm not gonna get, I'm not gonna make an analogy. Anyway, um, so this will be kind of interesting to see in itself also as well. I think big crypto overall looks really, really bad with this FTX thing. I've seen a lot of places say, "Hey, we want more regulation," but I don't know. I'm not gonna get into it. I don't feel like ranting about crypto. I think crypto is some of the dumbest. I mean, crypto is some of the coolest stuff, but a long time ago, I realized every crypto, even if it's a good project, its value is tied to Bitcoin, and it gets traded into oblivion. and it's a really, in my opinion, it's really hard for some of these things to exist in that environment until Bitcoin dies off and then cryptos come out and they're either not traded or, I mean, I guess that's the easiest way for these places to raise funds. But I feel like Bitcoin in itself is really hard. It's hard to exist for crypto in the age of Bitcoin because your project just gets wrecked to all hell when Bitcoin drops because that's just how the market works. That's just how it is. There's no way around. I don't know if there's any other way around it. Anyway, let's just kind of go into some of these other ones really quick. Something I did see that was pretty interesting. Start with this. I don't know if I didn't look at it. Did they have earnings? They didn't have earnings. So this was, I think, the most interesting thing I saw so far is that Carnival is down 12% right now in pre-market. Oh, well, I guess I can see right there. Carnival's down 12% in pre-market, which seemed interesting. Nothing else seemed to be down as nearly as far. Apple, like we've been over, I don't think this is in a horrible spot where it is. It's not gonna, to me, it doesn't. It's it's hard. Well, we'll see where it is. We have an hour and 20 minutes left. It's a lot of time. Hour and 15 minutes left. Anything that starts like here, I think is fine to try to push back up. Anything that starts this low is definitely pretty sketchy. Under the base of yesterday, I have a hard time seeing a start here. Went over the Nasdaq, Dow Jones, obviously outperforming everything. Where's the DIA? 336. So this is actually up a little bit. Okay. So this is from something before. I don't know if it really matters that it hit these lines and it's doing whatever it does. Just because I don't remember what these are from, but yeah, these are from. Let's see. Oh, so this is from when we went through here, and this is from when we went through here. Okay. I'll leave them. I just need to keep in mind what they are. They're important benchmarks. I could also probably put one here too as well. Like sometimes when I'll do this, it's where it hit and on the previous times. But I think it makes no sense to not at least just have one up here. So we'll see. Not really out of the woods yet. It is pretty high up. Like if it was going to get sold down, if there was anywhere to take profits, to me, this would be the place to take profits for the Dow Jones and wait to see if it can get above the week. We're looking at 3%, 3%, pretty much. Possible 3 to 3.5% missed gains. It's not really that much compared to a possible. If it does head back down, I mean, it could head back down easily like 7%. I could even see this, honestly, I could even see this heading down like another, even if this wanted to keep pushing back up, I could see this heading down another 11.5%. I could easily see a move all the way down to here. This looks pretty reasonable before it tries to move back up, and then we'll see what happens in this range. So it does make sense from that perspective. Oh no, it's this my bad. 33581. So it is slightly down on the day. Let's see the S&P. They're saying what? Everyone was saying 41. I guess that's 410. Or a lot of people were saying 410. Let's see. Yeah, I mean it looks like it's in a really ugly area. We'll see what happens. This needs to be here. Just kind of whip through a lot of it. Not a lot of pretty stuff here on the SPY, but it is what it is. I don't think it's that good looking on the SPYs. Almost the same concept on the SPY. Miss out on 1.2%. Doesn't really make a lot of sense to me to play in the bottom side of the 200 here. Um, as always, I like to see when it can get above all three, but it doesn't always go places when it gets above all three. So it kind of is what it is. Then it depends if you want to play it both ways. I don't want to get into it too much, but you can look at it kind of like here in a sense. This looks nice to go up. Once it comes down, we can see some pretty straightforward things. But this is also like August 17th, where I don't want to get too much into just looking at one thing. This is also August 17th, and August 17th was, right, the week August 17th, and also on the month time frame, also down here as well. So we could also kind of see those things. So overall, I think the market's probably going to trend back down, but I still think it has a decent chance to trend up. I'm really still just looking at Apple. Stuff like CCL kind of worries me going down so much today. We'll see what happens. From a technical, it makes sense to sell or fade into the rally or whatever, sell into the rally at this point, and then just wait a percent or two for it to push up, try to get in for the consolidation.